Well, hey, welcome to another Toolbox Tech Talk. Yeah, it's that time. It's Sunday. It's time to talk tech, and continuing this series, I'm talking to some of the key people in the industry from all around Australia. So that's really cool. But look, first up, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of where I'm broadcasting from. It's the Wurundjeri People's Land here in the Yarra Valley. So today's guest is Eddie Springer. So he's a long-time solar and battery installer living in Queensland. Look, Eddie has been working in the solar industry for 17 years. He lives in Castledean and he just loves the outdoors. So without further ado, let me just bring Eddie on. So here we go. G'day, Eddie.
G'day, Glenn. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So what's the weather like in Queensland?
It's good. It's warming up, which has been excellent. Winter's pretty mild up here, but yeah, it feels like we're getting back to summer already, and it's not even September, so it's good.
I think half of Southern Australia wish they were there too.
Yeah. We've been very lucky, I think.
And you wish they weren't. So yeah. Diametrically opposed. So yeah, look, I'm really feeling for all the industry who are sort of in various stages of lockdown. It's a pretty tough time to be working. If you're in the resi market, you know, the rules are pretty tough. So yeah. Okay, so Eddie, look, I've known Springers, your dad and your brothers for quite some years, but audience probably don't fully know all the story. So kind of let's start with a little bit of background. How did Springers get started?
So Mum and Dad had a previous consulting business doing communications and background music and things like that, and that business got bought out by a multinational. So it got bought out by Chubb Security. And my brother was working at the time. He was working at Campmart, who eventually became BCF and Super Retail Group. And he was ringing my dad from Campmart, nearly every second day and doing little designs with him with solar systems and batteries, trying to run fridges and things for caravans and things like that. And so my dad and my brother got their heads together after these conversations each week and decided to open a little retail store. So we leased a shop front and opened a little shop. And the plan was that they would sell retail. Dad was done with installations and done with service from his previous business. There would be no installers and no service, and just sell retail boxes of solar panels and batteries and regulators. And that was nearly 20 years ago. And that has morphed into what it is today. And I think that business lasted about 6 to 9 months before we put on an auto electrician and before we started into that RV space where we were installing on caravans.
So that was Joe, right?
That was Joe. So that's my older brother. So I was in construction at the time. I was working for Wappac. I went to uni, did construction management, and I saw that Dad and Joe were building a really good business, and it was starting to grow. They were struggling with staff, and I asked to come on board. I asked them if I could join them, and I took a pay cut from what I was doing and came into the industry. It was a very small industry back then, and we just worked at it, and we worked on our customer experience and customer service, and worked on building a brand, and that hasn't changed. That culture within the business hasn't changed.
And then you got one more brother as well who sort of rocked.
Yep. So same again. We never asked family members to come in. 7 years after, my younger brother, he was doing pharmacy at the time. He's a qualified pharmacist. He asked whether he could join us. He saw we were having too much fun and wanted to come across. So yeah. So wow. The three brothers are in the business now. Been working together for a long time. And then a couple of years ago, we've been succession planning for a long time with Mum and Dad and how to get them out and buy them out. And some circumstances changed in the family a couple of years ago, and it allowed for that transition for us three boys to take over as directors and purchase the business off Mum and Dad.
There's probably not a lot of solar business in Australia who had an actual generation change where the kids had taken over.
Yeah, well, it was a joke back at the BCSE days. I'm sure that Mike Russell said, it's hard to get staff unless you like the Springers and you just breed them. So it is good. And my Joe's son is now doing a school-based apprenticeship as an electrician with us. So he's in grade 11. So he does 3 days a fortnight with our residential and commercial teams. My niece and my nephew work here. My sister works in the business, my brother's wife. But that sounds like a lot, but in the scheme of 60 odd staff, we're definitely outnumbered. So it's a good dynamic.
Wow, I was blown away when I read that on your website. 60 staff. I mean, look, geez, just from your dad and your mum starting off with just the retail store, now 60 staff.
Yeah, so our Bald Hills location became Launton. We've got some hard stand and some workshop areas down the back, and then we've always had our Southside base. So the Southside store is a retail store with workshop for auto electrical. But the Northside store is then where we run all our trucks out of, where we warehouse, where we run all our contract teams from.
You know what, just reflecting on being in business so long in solar, I guess one of the things is customers come back to you years later. You sold them that 1 kilowatt system in 2007 and they come knocking.
And what we found was our caravan customers then matured into our residential customers. And those residential customers then mature into, oh, well, I've got a shed, I've got a business. We want you to do that as well. So that progression of, and initially that residential market was an older generation. So it was our caravan owners, our RV owners that were those early adopters into the market. They were an older demographic that wanted to do something for the environment back then. It wasn't, solar back then wasn't sold on return on investment. We were doing 1 kilowatt systems for $12,000 after an $8,000 rebate. We were doing 5 kilowatt systems for $55,000, $60,000. These were not sold on ROI. These were sold on reducing emissions, increased self-consumption at home, and doing, people wanted to be involved in the technology. They wanted to be involved in this change, and it was great.
I remember the 8th of May, the budget announcement, 8th of May 2007, when it was announced there was an $8,000 rebate because the phone didn't stop ringing after that. It's just amazing what that did.
Yep, $8,000 off a 1 kilowatt system, and they were still very expensive. It was great.
They were. Oh, look, you had to cut me. I was charging about 14,000 back then for a 1 kilowatt.
Yeah, 12 to 14. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. You tell kids these days, they don't believe you.
Yeah, they don't. And I talked to some installers about batteries and things like that, and they said they're too expensive. It's not worth it. Well, solar wasn't worth it back then either. It's the same dynamic. People will choose the technology that they want regardless of price sometimes.
There's been a change in the rules recently. The AEMC's approved retailers charging for export of solar. I imagine it's going to really put a rocket under batteries.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That dynamic tariff, and there's still the devil's in the detail, but it will push that increased self-consumption, smartening up our homes so that we can use more energy ourselves, and battery sales will, especially if they couple it with an incentive on batteries, which I hope they may do to really push that shift. We will see battery sales go up. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it might be a little bit contentious, but I actually agree with that ruling in that I think solar's had its time as let's just, pay for export and help people, get solar industry going, but we can stand on our own 2 feet now. We don't need export tariffs, and customers actually, should be thinking about self-use. That's where the most useful part of solar goes.
Yeah, well, our biggest gripe is when we want to put in solar, even with a zero export, and then we hit walls. But export limiting and zero export, that's been part of the game for us for a long time now. This is a natural progression, and the industry is mature, like you said. We will work through it.
Hey, I thought just a couple of little announcements for everyone who's watching this live. You can actually ask questions of us, Eddie and myself, in the chat. So feel free just to, even just say hi, because it's nice to know we've got an audience out there. And so just type something in the chat. And if you ask a question or got a comment that's kind of good, I'll just bring it up on screen and we'll discuss it. But just to sort of set the scene a bit more about Springers, I've got the webpage, so I'm going to bring that up on screen so we can see a little bit of kind of nature of the work you do. Now, we've already mentioned RVs, but you do much bigger systems than RVs. Yeah,
so we'll stay on RVs for a little bit because that has always been a key component of our business, and sometimes our focus has shifted a bit, but it's still there and it's still kicking along. with e-commerce now and online sales, we've found that part of our business has been a real steadier and a real stable position of growth for us. Last year with COVID and lockdowns and online sales, our online component of our business went nuts. So some of the extra staff we put on recently have been pickers and packers and digital people and content loaders, and all that has led to a lot of growth in that part of the business. And then the other side is the resi commercial, and we've grown with the industry. I feel like I've grown up in the industry. I was 22 years old when ATRA was a group of 50 blokes sitting around a table in a room in Canberra, and we've learnt a lot from our peers, and we've ridden the wave, and 100 kilowatt systems, 300 kilowatt systems now are the norm. We try and do at least 100 kilowatt system a month. Always chasing those clients or chasing those tenders or working with some of our building partners to get those systems across the line. So it is good. And council work as well, Brisbane City Council, Logan City Council, they're all key projects that we go after.
Have you noticed with the C&I market that the time has come where it's just kind of a sensible choice for a lot of businesses, and especially if you own the building or you're a public owned entity, like the numbers just stack up straight away, don't they?
Yeah, well, we call our owner occupiers of commercial sheds, they're the unicorns. They're the ones you want to find and target. But the flip side to that is some of those guys have got fatigue. They are getting hounded by the industry day in, day out, and they're getting hounded by some pretty people that are trying to capitalize on what is a good market and sometimes not sell the right product or do the right thing by these owners. So there's a bit of commercial solar fatigue for potential customers, and we've just got to cut through that. We've got to try and find a way in and be true to our brand and offer a good product, offer a fair and reasonable price, and like you said, it makes sense. The numbers on that they're fantastic. If you've got a roof space and you own the building, you're mad not to have solar on it.
I remember probably 15 years ago when Germany was like the world leader in large-scale solar, hearing that companies were hiring light planes and flying around looking for big roofs because those were your customers. You just go, there's a good roof. This was before
and knocking on the door with a suitcase saying, we will rent your roof. Here, have some money.
That's right. There was no cost involved. It was like, we'll just take your roof and get that awesome feed-in tariff.
Yes, I remember those stories.
Hey, look, a bunch of comments have come in, and thank you, Naheem. People saying hi. Jake, he's saying hi. There's Steve from New Zealand. That's great. Jason, he's saying hi to you and myself. Bradley Patton. Bradley is another institution in this industry, and Bradley's also a family business. So he's got most of his family working for him, and he knows all those pros and cons of that too. But we do have a question here, so let's bring this one up. So this is from Gianni PK. How often are zero export limits applied to your customers' systems?
So on a residential situation, rarely, only if we're going quite big. And then if we need to go larger on smaller residential customers, we're doing 3-phase upgrades to get them to that next level. But on commercial systems, it's 50%, 40% of our customers would have some form of export limit imposed. The larger stuff, yes, more and more. It really depends on the area and the network. The Energex Ergon, the DNSP, is looking at the penetration of solar in that area and determining what their grid can handle. So, it happens, and these customers have got large daytime loads. So an export limitation is not. It doesn't break the sale or it doesn't break the deal. They're generally part and parcel of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, many commercial businesses, which are daytime businesses, are your perfect match to solar, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I love the way you referred to the unicorns, the ones who own the building. I think the ultimate unicorns are the 24/7, 365-day-a-year businesses.
Yes. Yeah, well, on our website, you saw there's some clubs that we've done. So RSLs and some of the bigger clubs are, you put 100 kilowatts on those buildings and you're taking up 5% of their load at, at any time during the day. They're large scale users of power.
Yeah. Hey, something you said before that's kind of tweaked my attention was that the fact that you've diversified, that you do, RVs, off-grid, residential and commercial, means you're quite nimble when it comes to problems in the industry. So if one part's starting to slow down, whether it's because of COVID or incentives, you've got these other parts that support your business. I mean, that's great to see.
Yeah, it is, and it's always it's definitely got its challenges because we need to focus on different areas, but it has kept the books rolling when things have been tough. When we might have a snap lockdown where we're not doing as much installing or sales in Grid Connect or commercial systems might be slower, that part of the business keeps ticking over, and we're still, the RV market has boomed with COVID, with international borders and state borders shutting. So it has been a real benefit to have both. I remember going to, talking to guys 10 years ago at conferences, and they're just saying, how do you deal with the caravan market? How are you still doing that? Because a lot of us started in that market back then because that was part of solar, and a lot of businesses have moved away from it, and we've stuck with it. It's given me lots of grey hairs, but it's been good, and it keeps you grounded. A caravan system is a small off-grid system. An RV system is they're micro off-grid systems, so it keeps you learning and it keeps you adapting to the changing technology. Caravan market went to lithium batteries probably before the residential market did. So we were working with lithium batteries and working with batteries in that RV market, and the learnings there you take into the other spaces.
Look, I've only ever dipped my toe in the water on the RV. I've done two, probably three counting my own. And look, I remember the shock then when I realized how challenging it was. It's such a small space, and also the way that sometimes these things are sold. Like the very first mobile home that turned up, it's like this is number one. They'd bought it off basically, a big manufacturer of RVs who didn't do solar. They didn't do renewables. So they just said, oh, you go and find a solar guy to put it on. This was quite a while ago. And so they rocked up with 2 TVs, a great big fridge, all these appliances that they wanted. And they just imagined that magically you'd sprinkle fairy dust on their roof and it would run it all.
Yes. And you have the challenge of a small roof space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and there was no room. There was a satellite dish, and then
there's hatches
pop-up
and
air conditioners and hatches. And I go, what? You going to put a trailer behind you with solar panels on it?
Yeah, well, I've done that too. So yeah, some of the big buses tow big trailers just for more solar.
Wow, really?
Yeah, well, they might be towing a car or a boat behind, but yeah, we've done. I think we've fit 2 and 3 kilowatt systems on some of the big motorhomes, so it's good. But yeah, it's challenging. Tight spaces, crawling under dirty buses and dirty caravans, but it's good. Like I said, it keeps you learning and it keeps you adapting with that new product, that new technology. Yeah, it's good fun.
So I know that you were involved in BP Solar's quality assurance program some time ago. Can you tell us a bit about how that all worked?
Yeah, so BP Solar was manufactured in Australia, so at Homebush in Sydney, and we were exclusive BP Solar dealers back in the day, and that was a real little family. We had Kathleen Ryan, Nigel Morris, we had Mark Twiddell. We had a real crew of really good people there, and that's where I think we learned to network really well as an industry was through BP Solar, and they could see the market progressing, and they saw a need for businesses to be able to differentiate. BP themselves had an accredited contractor program for their service stations. So electricians and plumbers and whoever wanted to work on their service stations needed to go through a program, and they rolled that out for their solar installers. So it was quite onerous, and we had to bring a lot of our documentation up to spec. It was almost like a ISO accreditation where we had to have that quality assurance, and it was that first level of wanting to raise the bar, give ourselves a differentiation from the market, because there were new businesses coming in, day out. And look where we are now. Nothing's changed. We've got many a program like that running at the moment, where we're trying to lift the bar, lift that experience for our customers, and differentiate from the market.
Yeah, I mean, BP really was like an incubator for the industry. Everything from manufacturing solar panels to all the engineering. They did large scale. They did rebadged inverters and sold them as BP Solar. They had the quality assurance program, and all those people then, when BP decided that renewables wasn't the way to go, oil was the thing, and pulled out.
Shifted. Yeah.
It all shifted, and they all went everywhere in the industry, and now we've all benefited from that kind of initial
they all
investment.
planted their little seeds around the country with little businesses and growth. It was BP Solar that got us into electrical contracting. You know, we were at a conference in Coogee. Corey, I still remember the guy. He was from the US. He worked for BP. He flew out here as our guest speaker, and he said the Australian market is 5 years behind the US. Cottage industry for solar is over. Off-grid and not being an electrician is over. You guys, if you're not electricians, need to be. Get your tickets, get rolling. So we left that conference. We employed our first Sparky. We got our contractor's ticket, and we've grown from there. So myself and my two brothers are not electricians. We've worked with electricians for the last 15 years, and we've grown our contracting base with the help of all our electricians. But it was BP Solar that planted the seed for us. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. Hey, I'm just going back to the webpage. Is there you got any favorite systems on there that you want to just tell us a bit about? There's a story that goes with them?
Oh, look, we've done some really good storage systems with Tesla. We did Kevin Rudd's house up at Sunshine Beach, up Sunshine Coast. I don't know that that's on there because we haven't done any drone footage there because I think we're a bit worried about the ADF taking the drone down while we're flying over his house. But look, that Kedron Wavell, the top left there that you've got on screen, that was a very challenging roof because it was curved. They were 400 watt LGs. So they were bigger panels at the time. That system's a couple of years old now. 400 watts is the norm. But yeah, that was good. Brisbane City Council, we've done a lot of libraries for them. Councils bring challenges, but they also bring you lift the bar for quality and documentation when you work with someone like Brisbane City Council or Logan City Council or any of the big players in that space, because their attention to detail and their requirements for paperwork and everything are next level. But they also bring, that was the first time we started doing walkways like permanent walkways for maintenance and access. And we really started thinking about future serviceability of all these systems we do. And so those contractors that we used on those projects, we're now using on a lot of our other private commercial projects. And those walkways and those access points are becoming more and more the norm on the larger systems.
I'm just looking at this picture here. I noticed that you've done it in landscape. What was the rationale there?
I think it was to fit as much as we could. That library had its challenges in it had a lot of overflashing for skylights, which you can see there. And just to be able to fit what they required meant we had to go landscape to hit our clamp zones, to get the modules in the right locations. Landscape was the only way, and we find that on certain roofs, if you want to be able to install to the manufacturer's requirements, then you have to change your orientation.
Cool. So you also do off-grid systems. I'm just going to bring that one up so we can see some of those. So do you have a sort of catchment area that you service?
Oh, look, I've driven 8 hours for off-grid systems before, but we that Tesla Powerwall one at the bottom there on the left, that's a nice, tidy little. That's our first Tesla off-grid system. I know some guys aren't big fans of Tesla for off-grid, but in the right situation, that's just a little studio shed with not a lot of load. They're building a bigger house later, but for the right load requirement, the right situation, Tesla off-grid's good. So that one's nice because it came up really well. I think you should see some more photos if you scroll down there, Glenn. Just internally, yeah. So we did some black trunking there. We mounted an iPad on the wall. It all just came up, quite neat in its design. So, but yeah, catchment wise, yeah, generally 3-4 hours, 4.5 hours for our off grid, and we've got even pockets of off grid that are 30 minutes away out the back of Debra. So there's some local off grid for us, but most of it is a little bit further away, out the back of Toowoomba, Crow's Nest, to Goolawah, and then the hinterland of Sunshine Coast, Stanthorpe. There's plenty of off-grid around the metro of Brisbane, so it keeps us busy.
Wow, I love the black trunking. Did you just paint that?
Yeah. So we had it powder coated or painted. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's your standard cable tray that's been painted black, and then you've got black conduit there as well, and the iPad mounted and the document folder. So we took it to another level, just with that barn door beside it with its black rail. There's a lot of different black components. The shed itself is quite dark in that charcoal Colorbond color, so it was a nice little system.
Really goes well with the Solar Edge and the Tesla gateway, all the white and black look.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Even the black Corrie, nice touch.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I think this is also a kind of what's happening to the industry is people are really getting aware of the aesthetics, particularly in the resi market. It's got to look good as well.
Yeah. Well, that generally, if you go and do a service on a system or you're looking at a system, if it looks rough downstairs, you really start wondering what it's going to look like on the roof. So it's a sign of the tradesman. It's a sign of quality when you can make things look symmetrical and neat and tidy, and it proves to your customer that you're taking the extra time and care, and it proves to the next tradesman that might be on the site.
Yeah, I've noticed when restricted access for systems over 600 volts kicks in, people used to, put cages, ugly cages around their inverters. But, now people with, skills in cable tray have done some amazing metal work to kind of meet that obligation, but still have a great looking installation.
Yeah, and then color coding and stickers. And I mean, Scott Mason's the master of color coding cable tray down in Sydney. But and it's an art, finding those electricians that have done a lot of commercial industrial, that have worked with cable tray for long periods of time. They get really good at it, and they get really neat at doing it. And they're the guys that you need as part of your team for some of these larger scale jobs. You can have guys on roofs doing cable tray for days, and they manage to get it looking smick. So it's good.
Yeah, no more octopus curry.
No. Oh, look, I think back and we've all grown with the industry, but some of the first off-grid systems that we did 15, 16 years ago, they wake me up with nightmares because they didn't look pretty, and we were using plasmatronic regulators, and not that was a bad product, but that's what you had at the time, and they had exposed terminals on them, and you just it was a lot harder to make things look neat, and you didn't have the social media pages that allow you to share knowledge and pick up tips and tricks on how to do things, and you were in your own bubble. You were doing things your own way, and you were working it out as you went along, and that's been one of the real benefits of being in the industry so long. We've seen that progression and that change, and it's been great to watch.
Yeah, look, really, the Cutters page has been great for, not just sharing quality work, but solving problems. Someone the other day posted that they learned 80% of their skills from the Cutters page.
I saw that. They wanted CPD points just for joining the Cutters page.
That's right.
But it's great. And we, whenever we'd go to these conferences, we would learn more sitting down to dinner with our peers than we would in some of the professional development courses, because we're sitting with guys that are operating businesses in Sydney and New South Wales and Victoria and South Australia. So we're sharing knowledge with a competitor, but they're not a competitor in our next suburb. And that pooling of knowledge and learning has been such a really good experience. And those guys who, when my brother and I were very young at the time, and they took us under their wing, and they taught us, and they nurtured that relationship of learning. Kim Atkinson and Bruce Hannum, and there were so many, Damien and Brenda from WA. There's so many people that I could talk about, and that little nugget of gold that they give you every conference, that one thing you pick up that you take back and then you use in your business. It was fantastic. And it still is.
I think you just got a bit of a cheer from Jack there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. The industry really is, even though we're often, in competition with our peers, but it's not a shrinking industry. It's a growing industry,
Yes.
and we don't have to be mean about it. We can, share our learnings and not fear that it's going to, lost IP or something. It's all about convincing the customers how good solar is.
Yeah, it's lifting the bar. It's allowing the level and the quality to lift, which means that we can push out some of the unscrupulous operators that aren't in it for the right reasons. If collectively the good guys lift the bar, it creates a better industry. We're all for competition. There's plenty of competition up here in Brisbane, but there's plenty of work out there too. So it's good.
Cool. Hey, let's talk a bit about the kit you've been using. I can see on your websites, there's Tesla and the Solar Edge. Do you have like favorite kit to use?
Oh, look, Bradley would be happy. Bradley's Power Plus Energy, isn't he? We love Power Plus batteries. We've progressed into with Offgrid. We run Victron for our a lot of our systems. We run Selectronic as well. We've been Selectronic customers since the beginning. Selectronic have been around longer than us, so we've been with them from the start. We tailor our solutions to suit our customers' needs and their budget and what they want out of the system. But DC coupled with Victron, AC coupled with Selectronic and Fronius. We do a little bit of Tesla in off-grid, but for on-grid battery storage, it's generally all Tesla. We find it's a very reliable product for the residential market. It looks very good in a high-end home. Battery storage market for residential houses is higher end. So that Tesla seems to fit that market. But then for off-grid, look, we were doing, I don't know how many 2-ton lead acid runs I've done with batteries out west and up to Fraser Island, and we're doing that less now. It's predominantly lithium, and batteries are something that you're married to. So and off-grid is something you're married to. You've got to be very careful with the products you choose. And we've been burnt with some battery choices, and we put in 2 or 3 systems and end up having to fork out a lot of money for our customers to get them the right experience that they want, and then chase some of these suppliers that may not be around anymore or may not want to support us. So again, being in the industry as long as we have, those careful selections of products is paramount to being able to stay trading.
Yeah, I mean, with off-grid, your customer is for life often, and they don't go away. They'll have issues, upgrades. And they'll call you whenever they have a problem.
Well, I said it's a marriage before. We get involved in some of the messy divorces, where you're picking up the pieces halfway through an off-grid because the customer has divorced their installer, and you're going out there and you're seeing the expectation they had and the product that's been delivered, and most of the time you've got nothing else to do but say, look, we're going to have to rip it out and start again. It's just not going to deliver what you want, and it's really difficult. And it's that education of customers about even on-grid and off-grid that one guy that might be selling something for $10,000 or $15,000 and telling you it's going to promising the world, and the next installer is quoting 25 or 30 grand, and you're thinking that they're the same. It's really difficult to get that education across to your potential clients.
Yeah. It's not just an appliance you're buying. It's
a
bespoke design to meet your requirements. So off-grid is the most challenging. Yeah.
Yes, and I do a few videos and a few things myself, and it's about that education. I'm doing an off-grid series at the moment and talking to potential clients about what they should be looking for in an installer, and what's real and what's unrealistic. Some people have got very unrealistic expectations, about what off-grid can do. And you said it before with the motorhome and the guy rocking up with his fridge and his multiple TVs, and the expectation has got to be right from the start as well for off-grid.
Yeah. Hey, you just said that you're doing some recording, some training. Is that publicly available?
Yes, yes. So we post all our videos to our YouTube channel, so Springer Solar. So these are customer series, but and I'm doing a range of videos. So yes.
Okay, well, I'll link to it so
Yeah,
people
please.
know. I'll link to it up here if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the description if you're on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. So yeah, that's a good one. I think providing good information is both a public service, but also it's great for your business because it convinces people that you know what you're on about. You're not trying to sort of trick them into buying something that's not right for them, and you're helping an educated customer come to you with the right understanding of what the limitations are.
Yep,
Good
absolutely.
on you. Yeah. Hey, that's great. Okay, so let's talk about Queensland a bit. So, in terms of working in Queensland with solar, what are some of the obstacles for the uptake of solar? Do you think?
Oh, look, it's competitive.
Mhm.
The Gold Coast seems to be more competitive than the Brisbane market and the Sunshine Coast. We don't get into the Gold Coast as much, but it's competitive, which is good. Challenges, look, Energex and Ergon or Energy Queensland, we've always had a good relationship with them in that their information flow from them to electrical contractors and to installers has been good. They've listened when we've asked for clarification and changes, and they've allowed us to increase system sizes and do different things with three-phase and export control. So it is a good market to be in. I think where our regulation is probably is the right mix. I think maybe sometimes some inspections or some random inspections from our government authorities wouldn't hurt, rather than just our CER inspections. I think some Queensland-based inspections for solar systems for contractors wouldn't be a bad idea. But it's a good market. It's booming, and it's year-on-year growth for the resi commercial market up here, and it's been great to be part of.
You mentioned inspection. How does it work in Queensland?
So we're self-regulated. So we write a certificate of test at the end of the job, and we sign off on it. And the onus is on us to ensure that it's compliant and safe. And the only inspections we're getting on our systems are the CER inspections for the STC compliance. But there is no actual inspections unless it's deemed to be unsafe and someone, there was an incident or an accident, and then someone's been hurt, or someone phones up the ESO. Then they will come out and inspect and then get the contractor back. But there's no mandatory inspections up here on solar systems.
Yeah, so you just get whacked with the CER, which is the forensic inspection.
Yes.
That's right. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I used to be involved in managing the inspection regimes for the CER. I'm familiar with the list. Basically, no one wins. It's the toughest list there is. Like, where's the documentation? Oh, we don't know where we put it. Sorry, that's a fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we went to a digital documentation a while ago, and a customer acknowledgement of receiving the digital documentation. So I've been failed on documentation enough times to just reply with a letter. This is when it was delivered, and the customer signed off on it. So if they can't find it, that's not my problem.
Here's a picture of the customer with the little black folio holding the document.
Again, back in the day when it was paper copy, we used to go out, we'd give the handover paper copy, and they would sign an acknowledgement that they had received it, and we'd bring that back with us and put it in the file. Back in the early days, my dad used to drive out to every single residential Grid Connect customer 2 weeks after the installation and meet with the homeowner, shake hands, hand over the documentation, and do that one-to-one personal touch from the owner of the business to every single residential customer. Well, we're doing too many systems now to be able to do that, but that's what allowed us to build that customer brand and that customer service.
I'm thinking back to it before the CER inspections in Queensland. Basically, because it was self-regulated, you did get some, carpetbaggers occasionally. I don't know if you remember Free Solar.
Yep. Yeah, I remember Free Solar.
And the TV ad with the car, and you'd open the boot, and there's a panel in the back.
Yeah. We still see it now. You see that boom bust cycle of the guys coming in and going for growth and promising the world, and then 2 years later they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've also been involved in the CEC's accredited retailer program, I believe.
Yeah, so we're a founding signature on that. So the CEC came up to see us and spoke to us about that program starting. And like I said before, with the BP accredited contractor program, it was very similar. So we said, yep, we're keen. We opted in. We're a founding signatory. It has grown immensely since then. And, you know, it's still great to be part of that. And we continue to be part of it because it's called up for on some of the tenders we go for and some of the projects we go on. But it has been disappointing to see some of the players in that program doing the wrong thing and being able to continue to operate with minor suspensions and things like that. It seems to be watered down a bit as the number of people in that program has evolved, and that's the nature of the beast, you know. It's good that it is good that there is a stick that the CEC can use when you are in that program, because otherwise, for dodgy business practices, the CEC will point you to the ACCC, like they've got no stick to whack you with. So that is the benefit, is if someone is doing the wrong thing and is part of that program, there's a bit of recourse for them.
Yeah, cool. Hey, I got a fun idea. Let's do a little bit of role play. I'll be a customer wanting to go off grid, okay? And I'm going to ring you up, all right?
Yep.
You're up for it?
Yeah, I'm up for it. Yep.
Okay, right. So ring. Is that Springers?
Springer Solar, Eddie here.
Oh, cool. G'day, Eddie. Look, you know, I'm really keen to go off grid. I've got this little block of land out back, and look, I'm just wondering how much an off grid system costs.
Oh, anywhere between $20,000 and $150,000. What are you trying to run?
What? 150,000? I saw it on TV. 5 kilowatt system for 49995. What are you talking? 150,000?
Yeah, so that would be a grid connect system. Do you have poles and wires running past your house? And if we go out of role play for a second, that's one of the first things we ask. Do you have poles and wires running past your block? Because some people want to go off grid without the actual need to do it.
Okay, back into role play. So, all right, I get the idea. It's not as simple as just a normal grid connect, the 4995 ones. But you know, you said 20 to 120,000. How do I know whether I need a 20,000 or 120,000 system?
Yeah, so it's about your daily requirements for energy. And if you're unsure of what you need to be able to run, I can send you a spreadsheet with a load analysis on it and allow you to input the different items that you may need to power. And we can work with you to build a daily profile for your energy needs. And then once we've got that, we can design the system based on your requirements. I could put 5 different families in your home, and all of them will have different requirements for energy. So we need to determine whether you're a low user and you're doing a small off-grid system for 20 to 30 grand, or whether you're a large scale user that needs 3-phase appliances, that runs a mechanical workshop in your backyard, and then we're going up to the top end of that off-grid market. So it's about designing the system for your needs.
So, look, I know my bill for my house at the moment, you know, with 3 kids and a dog, is about $1,200 a quarter. So, am I a low user?
No, you're a high user. And look, if you look on that bill, you'll be able to determine the kilowatt hours. There'll be somewhere on the bill that will tell you how many kilowatt hours you're using per day. If you want to shift those same appliances and the 3 kids and the dog out to your off-grid property, then your system cost is going to be high. And as long as that's within your budget and within your expectations, then off-grid's for you. But if you're not planning on bringing those appliances, we need to look at shifting maybe some of your appliances to gas, designing your home differently so that you're not using $1,200 a quarter, and then we can scale the system back to suit a better budget and more suit your needs. When you're designing an off-grid home, you need to be designing it around low energy usage and low energy cost. So the appliances you choose are critical.
Yeah, okay. It sounds good advice, but I just another question. Can I run an aircon?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, so with every off-grid system, we'll design in an auto start generator, and your only complaint to me in the future would be that the generator runs too long rather than I've lost power. So if we design the system properly, you'll have low generator usage. But if you're running that aircon all day and all night, well, you're just going to have a high diesel bill if we can't get enough solar or we can't meet the needs of your budget.
Cool. All right. Well, look forward to that spreadsheet. And what happens after I send it back to you?
Yeah, so we'll design the system, we'll send you some budgets, and we'll need from you the address so we can start looking at your ability to capture sunlight. We can't really install an off-grid system if you've got no access to the sun. So we'll start working with you about designing a system around the property, whether you're doing a ground-mounted or rooftop system, whether you're putting it on the shed or on the house, and where you're at with your build plan. We'll work with you to get the product to you.
It's pretty windy on this site. Do you think wind's a good idea?
No, look, small scale wind is just not a viable product. We've worked with small wind for many years, and look, the ability to service and maintain that product on a really low scale, you're better off investing that money into a better battery system or more solar. We just don't see small scale wind as being as viable as solar energy.
Well, this has been fun. Thanks. That was a great response, and you've already got some fans. So Bradley has said I'd buy from Betty, so he liked your approach. We've got Nick here. So Nick says I get this type of call all the time. I try to briefly educate the end user in a polite way and refer them to a reputable installer like Springer's in Thief area.
In their area. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't think I'm a thief, but that's all right.
And we've got another comment here. So from Scott, for real basic terms, for every $100 per month bill works out to be about $10,000 for off grid. So there you go. 500 a month equals 50,000.
The other thing that we say is for every kilowatt hour of daily energy required, you're between $2,000 and $3,000 of install cost. So 10 kilowatt hour daily draw, we're looking at 20 to 30 grand system. And that is a wide number too, 2 to 3 grand, which gives you scope for high quality gear, more value for money equipment, ground mount, roof mount. So that's a number that I sort of fall back to. It's a number I've been saying for probably 18 months, 2 years, and I go and do a design, and it's always sort of within that realm.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's my approach too, is to give people a simple concept that energy efficiency matters in terms of dollars and cents up front. It's all about your energy use. Reduce that number. It's the problem, not my quote. The problem is your energy.
Yes. For every kilowatt hour you reduce is another 2 or 3 grand you can save.
Yeah, that's great. So Brendan's wanted to add to the role play. So he's going, I want to charge visitors electric cars 3 at once. How big is it going to be now?
Yes, so your system costs and your system size increase dramatically.
Well, this is a real thing now. I mean, we've got a little EV charging station here at the lab, and it was initially just for our car. Within weeks, 2 more turned up at the co-op, and now we've got 6. And so we've got 6 cars wanting to charge.
Yeah, and that your little system down there has grown exponentially, I think, with the market. So it's good. But yeah, we're going to see more and more of that EV penetration. And we're going to need to adapt and move with our system design and our battery design to capture that market.
And there's a cheeky comment here from Coit, having a dig at Queenslanders. Have you ever seen a coal-fired generator used at home?
No.
It's no joke. I actually just sold my steam engine. Which has got an electric generator on it. It generates 1 kilowatt off a 45 kilowatt boiler, but it's designed for wood, but you could notionally put coal in there if you wanted to. But the energy input, 45 kilowatts of heat, 1 kilowatt of electricity.
Well, one thing I've never done is done any hydro off-grid as well with water wheels, and I've always been fascinated by it, but never had the opportunity for the right block or the right environment to do that. But again, as that solar market has matured and the cost of solar has come down, it's a no-brainer just to go big, more solar and capture the energy that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a little bit to do with micro hydro myself. We've got one here. It's geography. You need to be somewhere where you've got a decent head of water to be economical. But actually, if you do, it's the cheapest form of renewable energy. But really, in Australia, it's probably northern New South Wales, a few alpine areas, not many.
Yeah. No, it always looks cool. Always fascinated me. I've just never had a chance to play with it.
I inspected a lot of systems in New Zealand for the government some years back, and every time I went to an off-grid system with a micro hydro, the main complaint from the customer was too much power.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a funny one to have. They said, we've got the heaters on, the hot water tank's always at maximum temperature. We just don't know what to do with it all.
Yeah.
24/7 power. That's what it is. Yep.
That's great.
Okay, well, that was kind of fun. I've never done a role play, but just put you on the spot there. Well done. Look, it's been great chatting with you, Eddie, and learning a bit about your business's history and how you come to where you are now. So, hats off to you guys. You've really done an amazing service to the industry, taking the small guys along with you, and moving into the larger projects.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. It's been little steps the whole way, and we've had those markets. As the market grew, we had the ability to probably go bigger than we have, but it's been sustainable growth for us, and it's been those little incremental steps over 20 years that has allowed us to grow organically and take the people with us and take our teams with us without getting out of control. So although it's 60 staff now, and some days it feels a bit out of control, it's been a slow project to get there, and it's been good. And working with my brothers, look, I big shout out to Mick and Joe. Couldn't do it without them. Mick, the youngest brother, is probably the most level-headed out of all of us. So he runs the business operations. Joe runs our sales teams. Joe could sell ice to an Eskimo. He's a larger than life character, and he really has led that customer focus from the start, and that interaction and building friends and relationships with our customers. And then my background has allowed us to I run our operations and our installation teams, and we've all got our own fields, and it's really good to have them to leverage off. I would hate to be running this on my own, and the business owners out there and the installers that are out there that run their own businesses on their own, that have all their own burden and their own headaches on their own. I feel for. I've got two of my best mates and my brothers to work with that we share that burden, and we can share that stress. We share the highlights as well, and we share that stress and those hard times, and it's good to be able to lean on them when I need to.
I've got this image in my mind from conferences from years ago, as we haven't had many lately, is the wall of green walking towards me, the three of you with your green tops on.
Yes.
And in case anyone doesn't realize, you're quite big guys. So yeah, it was like a wall of green coming down the corridor. Hi, Glenn.
Yes, and that was about branding. We wore our green shirts, and we'd walk around these conferences, and we'd see all these other people walking around in their plain clothes, and we go, well, we don't know who anyone is, but everyone knew who we were because we were in uniform. We were green. We attended all the functions, and most of them we attended till the wee hours of the morning. And we built our brand that way, and we're still doing that day in, day out. We've changed our logo, we've changed our brand now, but it's about getting that out in the market.
Actually, one problem you might have, if you ever use a green screen, don't wear those shirts, you'll just disappear.
No. Well, that colour's now gone, so we've gone to a darker green now as well, but they were a real lime green shirt. And they were, Mum and Dad, I think Dad came up with that colour and that concept, and it worked.
Yeah, cool. Great. All right. Well, thanks once again, and I'll catch you at the next conference, I think.
Yeah. See you guys.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to everyone out there. See you at the next conference.
Indeed. All right. I'll send you to the green room, and I'll just do my outro. See ya. Yeah, well, that was great catching up with Eddie there and hearing all about the whole family story and his experiences. I should just do a little plug for some of my other channels. So in case you're not watching this through YouTube, I've actually got a YouTube channel with a whole lot of free training and reviews of products, etc. Check that one out. If you're into Twitter land, I occasionally tweet some stuff. I do quite a lot of reveals of new products where companies send me something and I talk about it and understand, try to apply my mind to the technical characteristics of it. And just for fun, I'm on Insta as well, where you might see just a few selfies of me standing in front of some hardware or something. So there you go. Apart from that, we're out of here. Okay. See you next Sunday, 2:00.